and graffiti is often the first sign of trouble.
You can go down these alleys and it's like reading a newspaper. It gives out a wealth of information of who's who in the zoo and who's doing what to who. Like all these new fences right now, they'll be tagged within a week. It's Norteño X4, which stands for 14. You'll see the lettering down on the bottom. It says Deep SS Locos. It's Deep South Side Locos. It's a area gang over here in the South Side.
Graffiti and gangs go hand in hand. Frank Alvarez is responsible for painting over the graffiti. He's the county's only graffiti abatement officer in a job once considered relatively safe.
I was painting over graffiti, and it was gang related. They had a lot of 187s up, which is in the penal code for murder. So I was taking that stuff down, and shots were fired, and I just dropped to the ground.
Frank now wears a bulletproof vest, and rather than worrying about how many calls he can get to in a day, he spends time making sure he'll end the day safe at home with his family.
My wife, my girls, I've got 6 daughters, so they all say that they wish I wasn't doing this type of work any longer. They want me to get out of this doing the graffiti abatement because of the risk and the incidents that have happened.
On Saturday night in South Modesto, Sam and his partner Frank Soria stop a 16-year-old boy wearing Norteño gang colors.
Come here, man. Hey!
Is your police?
How long you been banging, man? Since you were born?
Till my death, I wear my rag and high. I'll be in Norteño till the day I die.
Sam decides to take the boy home. His parents don't realize how involved their son is with gangs.
You see this walkie-talkie right here? What he's doing is he's communicating with other Norteños, and he's playing a scout right now. What he's doing is he's walking down the street. Anytime he sees scraps, he's letting everybody else know so they can get ready and shoot it out with them when they come down here looking for them. That's how serious this is getting.
Less than a mile away on Midway Avenue, detectives Eric Newman and Anthony Pajeron spot a carload of Sureño gang members in the wrong neighborhood.
And as soon as we flipped around, boom, they took off.
What they found inside the car was another sign of the rising gang tension.
Oh, that's a 45, man.
It's like a Norco 45 caliber handgun. Let's see if it's loaded. It's loaded.
They probably have a gun because they're Sureños and they're in a Norteño neighborhood. So that's more likely why they have it, either to do a drive-by or for protection from being drive-by.
A lot of these guys have grown up in neighborhoods that are predominant. They've grown up in the gang. Their friends are gang members. Their mother's a gang member. Their dad's a gang member. They have a long history. It's a generation. So they're expected to follow in the footsteps and become a gang member.
We have seen the gangs proliferate over in this county over the last decade or so, but we have not seen the crime problem rise to the level it has. It actually has reached epidemic proportions if you really look at the overall crime being committed by gangs.
In the meantime, the sheriff has put together a temporary gang task force by reassigning deputies that usually patrol other communities within the county.
We don't have enough to go around, so we start robbing Peter to pay Paul. Well, what's happening is we're leaving many of our communities very vulnerable throughout the county because we have pulled staff from those communities and putting them into areas of gang suppression because we don't have any other resources.
Law enforcement officers tell us that every part of our community is at risk for gang violence. There are more of them, and they are more violent than ever before.
They are now spreading over into general areas where the general public frequents, the Taco Bells, the Burger Kings, the malls, those type of things. And that's where people who have nothing to do with gangs can end up becoming innocent victims.
It's now to a point where these people are terrified to even call the police. They don't want to say anything to you when you talk to them.
Getting people, even if they happen to give the police an accurate statement at the time of the crime, getting them to repeat that accurate statement in court is very difficult with gang problems, particularly because of the intimidation and retaliation factor. Retaliation in gang crimes, especially for testimony, is very prevalent. It's very common. And unfortunately, the folks who would come in and testify. And we're not talking about other gang members here. We're talking about the people who have to live in these communities and deal with this stuff. They're aware of it, and it's scary to them. And I feel for them. It is scary.
Deputy District Attorney Tom Brennan specializes in prosecuting gang-related crimes in Stanislaus County.
It's been my experience, approaching 7 years in this job, that gang members are committing the vast majority of violent crimes. Again, you have two cultures of victims. You have rival gang member victims, they're still victims, and you have the innocent civilians as victims of these crimes. Gang members are generally operating without remorse, meaning they don't care about injuries or pain or suffering inflicted not only on rival gang members, but innocent civilians.
The rise in gang-related crime has been a wake-up call for local leaders. There's a lot to be concerned about, and there's a lot of work to be done.
We need to communicate and work as a complete region, you might say, on this project. Modesto's the largest city, so maybe we have the most officers at the time that can work on these kind of things. But if we can get communications, we can get where we're working together, I think we can end this problem. We may not get rid of all of them, but I'll guarantee you they'll look for other places to go.
As gang violence was reaching an epidemic proportion this summer, the Stanislaus County Board of Supervisors formed a special committee to take an urgent look at criminal justice resources.
We have to begin planning on realistic ways to improve the funding of the criminal justice system. And that's why we formed a committee from the board level. We had to do this from the board level in order to ensure that we have two people from the board working on it, along with the sheriff, along with chiefs of police in the community, and the district attorney and others. And out of this, we think we can come up with some creative ideas, hopefully, for financing the officers that need to be on the street.
Cities and counties are facing a state budget crisis, but that hasn't stopped local law enforcement from taking steps now.
Have brought together the full force of all of the law enforcement community in Stanislaus County and to direct that at gang violence. Secondly is that we have created, while maybe short term, we have created an intelligence unit and a crime analysis unit that will help the suppression teams in the field better direct their resources towards the gang problems.
We must intelligently use the limited resources we have to bring to bear on the issues and get the community involvement that's critical to success.